All right. Hello, Graham. Hello, all. I'm just going to double check the sound here. That's quite loud. Not bad loud. Pretty good. Everyone happy with the sound? I might turn my mic down just a little bit. Music down a little now. Grooving. All right. These are my new earphones. I bought these somewhere. They're Sony's. They're lovely. Shouted them to myself for coming across the Atlantic, but I don't know how they work, and I try and put them away. Oh, that's how they work. Anyway, that's my monitor sound today. I really don't know how they work, do I? That way. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. It's Nick here, 45 Degree Sailing. Let's get rid of that timer now that's done. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of drone footage from wherever I was when I shot that drone footage. Tenerife. That was Tenerife in Marina del Sol, I think. Something like that anyway. I'm going to turn my sound off though, output audio monitor off, because I've heard that. Yeah, there it is. Code Mike. Flying into Zara tomorrow evening for a week of charter. Will you be around at any point? Mate, I'm always around. Yes, I'll be somewhere. But not into Zadar. I'll be in Trogia all this week, I believe. Yeah, I will be in Trogia all this week. Diego's here. Diego, you've got itinerary planning and Bebbit Assist, don't you, this season coming up soon? May, is it? I'm looking forward to that call. That's going to be fun. Gordon's here as well. Hi from Trogia. Gordon, congratulations, Gordon, on winning the prize one night at Il Pont in our competition live stream. Congratulations, because you're at Il Pont right now. Maybe not right now. I know he's got dinner booked with his wife at 7, so have a great dinner, and 100% you've got to have the pear for dessert. Like, that's just the number one. It's the best. Mahina says, I'm mumbling and I'm hard to understand, so I will work on that. I'm also very congested, so I feel like I'm talking very clearly, except I'm probably mumbling and hard to understand. Crazy Frog's in here from Beograd na Moru. Okay, where are you anchored, mate? Where are you hanging out? Other than Beograd na Moru. Hang on, but if you're Beograd na Moru, are you in the marina? Have you gone to a marina? Are you hiding from the upcoming Yugo? Carol is here. Hrusha, greetings to everyone. Hi, Nick. Sorry for being impolite. Just cannot stay online now. But if you're reading this, could you tell us, how was it with freshwater supplies, drinking water, and food? I certainly can. I'll come to that. Yeah, we'll get into that. And no doubt others will have that question as well, because that's something that we'll cover. Yeah, it's something we'll cover. We'll cover in the stream. For sure. So, yeah, let's jump out of there. I'm going to run the cutscene shortly, and we're going to get into this. So this is the Atlantic Crossing debrief, okay? For those of you who have just joined us or don't join us usually, or some version of those events that I'm blabbing on about, I just crossed the Atlantic from Gran Canaries to Martinique is where we landed in the end, aboard a Moody 54DS, and I have had no time to myself or to live streams or videos since I got off that boat and flew back home. So we're going to do that debrief now. If you've got questions, throw down your questions, put them in the comments, put them in the chat, and we're just going to keep rolling through that until people are really bored or I can no longer speak because I'm so congested. Excuse me. So let's run that cutscene and then we will get into it. Oh, I felt like that wasn't a long enough break. I'm going to have to do a longer cutscene so I get a longer pause. Okay, my left side is free. My right side is completely stuffed up, but that's all right. I'm sure Red Bull and pineapple juice will fix it. So, I'm just finding out my daughter threw... Oh no, she threw a lollipop and it smashed. Oh no. No, Kuda, did you throw your lollipop? Well, no more. No, no, she can't just have. I can't say that out loud. She's watching the video. All right, all right. Atlantic Crossing. Moody 54DS. March, April, March, April, March, April. What month is it? April. March 2025. That's when we went. That's when we went. Diego says, yes, that was from that question the other go. Jacob Garcia is here and online. Excellent. Dude, I'm looking forward to sailing with you again soon. Flotilla is coming up. Oh, now that's something I have to say because apparently I've got to start selling my business. Not selling the business, but selling the business that I do. Since buying Mila Felice, since getting all sorted out with this season, 90% of my sailing this season will be on Mila Felice as skippered charters with me. Okay, so if you're interested in sailing with me this season on Mila Felice, it's a up to 6 people charter on a 55-foot Hansa 548 that I manage and love and all that sort of thing like that. She's fast, she's fun, she's beautiful. Then you can come on board, you can learn, you can relax, we can have fun, all those sorts of things. But that's what I'm doing this season. So if you want to book in and do one of those weeks with me, we've got special prices on that up until the 20th of this month, April. Okay, so if you're interested in that, just tell us. I might even ask Anna to drop the link to our Skipper Charters page for that's what I'm doing. But that is, I can do it, Anna, if you're a bit broken. That is 90% of our charters. Sorry, of my sailing this season here in Croatia. So I'm really excited about it. I've got about 5 or 6 Skipper Charters booked already. So I'll only do about 11, 12. So if you want to get in on that and come sailing with me and have a blast, then get in touch and we'll book you in, and you can bring up to 6 people across 3 cabins, or you can just, you know, two couples on that boat is really nice. Anyway, that's where we're going. Oh, and I just realized I've completely missed all the comments because I didn't scroll down. Sean Gallagher's here. Good to see you back home safe. 100%. Thank you, Sean. I was really missing home. Rudu and I are watching from upstairs, and Rudu just threw her lollipop and smashed it. To catch up, you had 2 times. I had to 2 times speed you, and you didn't sound mumbly at all. Just outside the marina. Nice. No, going sailing with Hugo. Perfect. It's going to be great. My first ever sextant is arriving. Lovro, how are you? On Monday. That is really cool. How skilled am I in Celestial? No. Not skilled enough to teach it. Not skilled enough to teach it. Look, I understand how it works. I know about the angle of zenith to the sun and to accept like in celestial navigation, gnomic charts, but I do not know. I've never successfully plotted my position. I've never tried, but I've never actually plotted my position on a celestial chart to get in my position like that. So I would love to learn more about that. It's probably the only reason I'd consider doing Yachtmaster Ocean. Yeah, probably anyway, but no, I'm not very skilled at that. So yeah. All right. Look, Carol Hrusha has only thrown out the first. She's the one who threw out the first question. So if you start throwing down your questions about the Atlantic crossing, we can get into that. Yeah, and I'll just sort of we'll start rolling through the trip as it went. The decisions we made, why we made them. Yeah. So. As it was a very small, quick surprise or something that I was going to be crossing the Atlantic, if you've seen any of my views on this, or if you've asked me to cross the Atlantic with you before, you'll know that I just said, nope, absolutely not. I'm not interested. I don't want to. And that is actually still the case. I'd never planned to do an Atlantic crossing really, maybe once in the future or anything like that. But effectively what happened was a client of mine that I trained on Mila Felice, and we did a bunch of charters with. He was on Bareboat Assist all last season. We've had a lot of dealings with, and then I assisted him a little bit. He did most of it on his own in buying his new boat when he bought his Moody 54, DS54. And then I flew over to Barcelona and I trained him a bit because he was planning to do all of this. So we hoisted his new sails. I taught him how to sail with a Jenica and an Oxley, and just more experience like that. Well, they took off out of Badalona, close to Barcelona, and sailed down past Gibraltar and into Morocco, and then from Morocco into Gran Canaria, and planning to do the crossing, the 2 of them. and I got a few calls and messages with a little bit of concern in different situations, and I coached them through that. This is what we're going to do, this swell from this angle, blah blah blah, which was cool. They got there safely, everything was fine. But effectively, I think the reality of that crossing and of being in the Atlantic and in the unknown kind of hit home after getting out into some open sea and some real swells. And they and he asked me, hey, what would it cost, and is it possible for you to come and do an Atlantic crossing on Tuesday? Like, this was literally on the weekend, on Saturday or Sunday, wasn't it? Saturday, I think. He's like, hey, on Tuesday. I'm like, oh my gosh. So out of having dealt with that client and trained that client quite a lot, and very much in wanting to see them succeed and everything like that. And since they were willing to pay the amount that would cost, which was whatever I said, considering the situation, I thought, hey, this is an opportunity, one, to do an Atlantic crossing on a very nice boat, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. And so I decided to take it to help them out and get them safely across the Atlantic. So that's the short story on why I did that Atlantic crossing at very short notice, and no one really knew about it until it was happening, because neither did I. So I flew to Gran Canaries, to Las Palmas, and jumped on the boat with them. And they'd done all the provisioning and got the water makers serviced and all the bits of it. Everything was pretty done. So that was really cool. And we were planning to take off. It's interesting because if you haven't done changing countries and arriving in different countries and checking in and out and all that before, there's a lot of just little details that you may not know. You just may not know because you haven't done it before, or you weren't expecting that. And like, one of the first things I said is like, hey, we need to do a checkout, but we need an exit paper. We need a crew list exit paper, signed, stamped, delivered. We need an exit paper, because if we go into certain islands, like we were going to plan to go into Barbados, or if we had gone into Guadeloupe, or whatever, they require that you have that exit paper in order to enter that country. Now, as it was, we went to Martinique. We did send our exit paper along, but it's not as big a deal with certain countries, certain places you go to. So that was part of it. That I was like, hey. So we went and I arrived in Las Palmas. We took off to get a meal and go to our checkout. We did our checkout to the police station. They're like, cool, stamp in the passport, that's it. And I said, hey, I want a crew list. Can we do a crew list? Can you stamp a crew list? We got 4 copies of the crew list, the boat information, the exit date, the planned port we're going to, doesn't matter if you don't go there, and a stamp from the customs immigration out of that harbour. So we had that, and then we were planning on getting fuel that night. They hadn't gotten fuel. We wanted to get fuel, but they closed too early. And so it's like, oh, if we don't get fuel here, where are we getting fuel? Or, we have to wait till the morning, so we're going to lose 12 hours. So we decided to take off and sail towards the last spot on, let me bring up my map here. Basically the farthest out island on in the Gran Canaries. Where's my, there? Yeah, there it is. I'll just share my screen when I figure out how to do it. Standard Nick making things up as he goes. To work on getting, there we go. Yes. That one. That's kind of it. That's kind of it, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So that's Trogia. Hi, welcome home. That's Cabo Verde. All right, Santa Cruz, Tenerife. So into Las Palmas. So we tried to sail out here to La Distinga on this island here called El Hierro. And so out of Las Palmas, we went down underneath and we sailed across here. And I had them check, because I was like, hey, this fuel station, are you sure? You're absolutely sure? Because we need that fuel. Look, long story short there, they finally got a response from someone. 3 people had said, yeah, it'll be open. Finally got a response, said, no, it closes at 1 because it's like a fisherman's refuel. So we ended up here and we just went straight back to Tenerife. And we came into here at Marina del Sol, this one here. We were in Marina del Sol, which was that drone footage we were looking at earlier. We were parked on this fuel dock. So we went in there and got our fuel. It was blowing 20 odd knots when we went on to go onto that dock, which was fun. There we go. And it got along, but the boat only just fit on that fuel dock. Like we were hanging over at the front, and it was like I had to just get the lines on and just motor into it nicely, but it was all good. The main issue, what happened now, is that we got held up in Tenerife because I was feeling something on the jib when we'd furl and unfurl the jib, and I was feeling the spin at the top, and there was a grip and a spin at the top of the furler, and I really didn't like that. So I flew the drone up, and I had a look around the top of the mast. Actually, I can show you that. Is that one? And I was very happy to have seen this because, and it's like, hey, spot the problem. And I flew this around up here and go, shoot, this is not good. And it really concerned me. Like we got 2 forestays on this, that's great and all, but if something goes wrong here, so it's like, if you can't see it, look at it, can I zoom on this? No, I can't. But right in the middle of the screen on the second furler, you'll see there's a bit of a compression. Basically what's happened there is the halyard, the halyard and the Dyneema has at some point wrapped around the top of that furler, the top of the foil for the furler, and pulled really tight and then crushed. And it's basically crushed that, and it's crushed the furler. So then we had an issue with the drum not spinning properly, and I've got a crushed furler. Now, a crushed foil on its own, the foil is not what holds it. The forestay is running through that. The crushed foil is not a problem. It's, is there any damage? Because the foil spins around the forestay. Is there any damage to that forestay? Because that would mean, no, trip's over, it's a month before ordering a new forestay and all that sort of stuff. Like, it would have just been really bad. So that was what we had to check out. So we ended up booking into that marina for the night, and which was very lucky because there was not much space, into that marina for the night. And then I went through this whole thing of eventually actually flying a rigger into Tenerife to come, a guy I knew, Marian, to come and down and help me change it. And we pulled the whole forestay off, the whole electric fuel drum, everything, and we cut the foil down and repaired it. Well, basically it was longer than it needed to be, and changed the whole deal. Anyway, so I've got more videos coming for that. I will do a video on that, but that was what held us up there. And by this time, time just keeps ticking by and ticking by and ticking by. And I was on a very time crunch to get gone so we could actually get to the Caribbean so that I could get back home for what I needed to get home for. All right, so that was our diversion into Tenerife. All right. Graham says, what was your shift schedule? Shift schedule was, as a skipper, I would take shifts that were sunset and sunrise. Okay, so sunset and sunrise are the times where you're going to get the most change going on. And so as a skipper or as whatever, I want to make sure that I'm around for that, because that temperature change, that pressure change, everything like that is going to cause the change in the winds and everything like that. So I chose to be on this shift. So I would be on from like, we kind of, our daytime, we didn't have a set shift in our day. The 3 of us just managed it. We were kind of awake and it was all fine. Or someone was like, hey, I'm going to have a nap or whatever. Because we were all working. So we had different work schedules, calls that we were doing and all that. So we just had to keep going. So a bit of a different world in that sense. But basically I would be on then through that and dinner until midnight. And so I would run from, effectively my shift was 8 till midnight, but I was doing sunset as well. And then I would do what would I do? Yeah, I would do 8 till midnight. I'd sleep till 4 a.m. and then from 4 a.m. I'd do 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Or 4 a.m. till 7 a.m. Or we sort of worked it in there. So that was our shifts. So effectively, I had 2 shifts in that night, and then once the sun started to come up and we were happy with the reefing and everything like that, I'd go back to sleep before it got too warm or whatever, and then I'd have a rest, a couple of 3 hours into 11 a.m. or something like that. Then we'd be up for our day. So in the beginning, so we had 3 crew on board, and in the beginning, one of them, he was pretty fresh. Like, he'd done sailing with the skipper before. After I'd trained him, they'd done a few trips together. He's a very capable person, absolutely 100%. But he was still very fresh at, what am I going to do if that, if the sheet's this, if the sheet's that, or if the sail does this and sail does that. So in the beginning, we basically did it like a 2-handed sail. So those shifts were just me, then the skipper, then the owner, then me, then the owner, like that in the night. And that third person was there as a refresher. So we would do a rolling watch with that third person, so that you would have 2 hours. I would have 2 hours on my own. I'd have 2 hours with that person, and then the owner would have 2 hours on his own, then 2 hours with 2 hours with that person, then 2 hours on his own. So you'd always had some fresh eyes and around, and then if there was any needed relief, like you're just getting too tired, then he could come up. He could just be there because he'd be up in the saloon and watch and be on shift, and then I'd lay down and just have a rest, and I'm just resting there, closing my eyes, not fatiguing, and I've got fresh eyes, watching out, listening, and I hear a beep and I go, hey, what's that? And he's like, yeah, it's cool, whatever. So that's how we ran it for the first 5 days or so. After that, he'd learned quite a lot by then. Everyone had gotten to the motion, and we split the shifts. We started doing 3-hour shifts instead of 4-hour shifts, so then each person would get like 5 to 6 hours down in the night. So that was cool. Vincent says, welcome back. Thank you, Vincent. Good to be back. Wallace, looking forward to the flotilla, mate. I missed out about update we did about causing seawater on the bilge. Okay, so the seawater on the bilge. We do not know still exactly what's going on. So the mechanic, the guy came down and checked the stern gland once we were in Martinique, after I'd left, and said, look, there's not a major problem there. We know there was a small leak coming in at times. We know that. So there was definitely a little bit of water coming through the stern gland while we were sailing, 100%. Though it was not the amount of water we were getting in. So 3-4 times during the trip, obviously you saw on the updates and things, we would keep pumping that out, but we went deep to pump out some of that water. Like, it was crazy how it was going on. Now, on the sail, once the boat left Martinique and then went to Guadeloupe, he said that he did 2 hours motoring, 3 hours motoring in calm in the lee of the island, nothing coming in. Checked everything, all good. Then once he crossed and got into the 1 or 2 meter waves across over there, and he got there, then the water was in there after that. So there's obviously something shifting, or when you're at speed or getting the pressure slap either through one of the seacocks, or if it's the stern gland moving and letting more water in, we still do not know exactly what it is. Really don't know, actually. So I've got my suspicions. There's a potential that it was coming through the stern swim platform, and that the seal there, but that's a long shot. It's not really right. I think potentially we could also have had, what was it? The transducer wasn't leaking. We checked so much stuff. It was really strange. It wasn't overly disconcerting for me. I was worried about it because I should be. Like, no movement in the keel or anything, all the major, like, first thing when that happened is like, right, sense check, everything. And then none of the big red flags, none of the big issues were like red flags, like, okay, that's all good. Here's the main problems: engine, stern gland, keel, bolts, all of that. So after that, I was like, okay, we'll figure this out. Then it's probably a seacock. So I think it's a seacock, and especially we were sailing fast. So I don't think it's sitting because it's sitting, there was no more water coming into the marina, no more water coming in. And I think it was, we were going fast, 8 to 14 knots. So like that just creates a lot more pressure on some of the sea cocks that we would otherwise have not seen a leak. And then when we're at pressure, it's like, oh, I'm just going to piss in the side here. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at on that one. And I'll learn more as it comes on. JB says he had a halyard wrap, crushed my foil for the first time I used it. Oh, yeah, that makes me cry too, mate. Yeah, it's something to just not know about. Someone's done it on Meal of Fleece before as well. It's just not understanding, having a working knowledge of how the foil and the furler works, what it looks like at the top, how it operates, what you need to look for, what you need to feel in the rig. This is huge, okay? It's absolutely huge. So really get an understanding of how that works. If you get a chance, if you see the rigs down at the marina, like I walked past 3 today after I lifted Nooker out, if you see them down, go and have a look. Just have a look at how everything works, okay? And if you ever see someone assembling, then go and look at the assembly. It's great. Lover heard a horror story, rigging some privilege. Tiny stone. Oh no. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. Little stone inside the foil, so then that stone's going to carry, and it could just completely destroy the forestay. Forestay was assembled, and the little rock grinding goes every time. After 10 days, the forestay snapped. Oh, the Genoa halyard was holding it up. Oh, that's good. That's a bonus. That's good. Flybridge cat had the rig come down. It would have certainly landed on the skipper and killed him. Yeah. That's what you get for sailing catamarans. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's really scary, especially on the cats. Like, there's a lot of rig there. Would have been better with 4th person for watches. No, it wouldn't have been better. A 4th person means more water usage, means more food usage, means less space, all that sort of stuff. Not that that's a bad thing. But for me, as a very unknown introvert, I really liked how we did it with 3 people. Though, look, I mean, for some people, yes, a 4th person would have been better. Because, and I had a couple of people comment on the stream saying, they'd done a crossing and they had the same time every day was on shift. It's because it was their shift, right? So they did 8 hours or they did whatever it was. It's the same time, they just treat it like a job. And you're the same people and you've got your same routine, okay? And if that's what you like, that's cool. What was interesting about this is that we were just sailing through time zones. So sunset just got later and later and later and later until eventually we did actually shift to do that. So, yeah, but no, in our case, I don't think it would have been better, but definitely you just got to figure out how you sail. How do you sail? How does your crew sail? Now, I was going to say if you had heavier conditions, you need more watches. But in saying that, we had pretty heavy conditions. We were sailing most of the time in 25 to 32 knots of wind, which was fantastic. Downwind, we were just flying. Very fast crossing, 14 and a half days, 15 days. So those conditions don't tire me out as much. We got tossed around on the downwind swells a little bit, so it would have been nice to get some more sleep sometimes, but actually I got more sleep on that trip than I usually get at home. Graham says 2 people would have been a lot of work for a crossing of that size. Well done. Next time you want a 3rd person, the guy, yeah, you missed the number, Graham. Look, there were a lot of people saying, hey, can I come? Or, I could have crewed for you and all that. And yeah, I get it. You could have. When you get invited on a trip like this, or when you ask to go on a trip like this, just think very, what's the word? Analytically at everything about that trip. And I'm not even talking about the sea and the weather conditions. I'm talking about the boat, the space, the people on the boat, the ability, experience, knowledge of those people, ability under pressure, understanding of whether, because that's what's actually going to affect this so much more. How do those people get along? How much time do they spend together? All this sort of stuff. What sort of people are they? That's huge. Okay, so just be very aware of all that stuff. So looking at, I've run out of comments there, which is great. If you've got more, throw them down. I'm going to have a drink. And Graham says alternating shifts. It's nice. You get to change it up a bit. Just did 3 hours on, 6 hours off. Yeah, look, I think that's one of the best, I think. 4 hours is a little bit long, but 3 hours is all right. Hey, Nico's here. Welcome, welcome. If you have just joined us like Nico, we have just talked about my arrival in Tenerife and how we were going to go for fuel here, but we diverted to, oh, do you see my, oh, there we go. We were going to go for fuel here, but we ended up diverting to Tenerife, and that's when I found that issue in the mast, which was, where's my last mast one? Are you going to play that for me? No, you're not. What I have to do, I have to go to my main, then I have to press this button. There we go. The issue at the top of the mast, sorry, the foil with the mast, we just sort of went over that and went over foils and things. So welcome, Nico. And everyone's saying, Graham's in there, Nico, buddy, hi, Mahin is there too. So, yeah, and then we've just finished about shifts. So once we took off from Tenerife, we ended up basically from here. Now, the whole idea, there's a bit of a saying, people say, go south until the butter melts and then turn right, which is effectively exactly what we did. Okay, so the idea is that, and I'll bring predict wind up in the background here. So we sailed down, not due south, but very close to it, down towards Capo Verde, which they say is where Cabo Verde, where the butter's going to melt, which gets hotter down here, and then headed off this way. The main reason for that, is because, especially in the winter, basically the Atlantic storms. If we look at the tracking of the Atlantic and North Atlantic winter storms, you see everything rolling over like that. Now, we had a great couple of systems. Like when we were in Tenerife, we had 30 odd knots in Tenerife because we had these two massive low pressure systems moving across. And so if you see there, it's like they're all moving above this sort of 55 latitude. They're all moving above that, even 60. Actually, the most of them are around about 55. Sorry, 40, 30, 36, 37, yeah. So definitely above the 30s is where those are centered and running through. So of course, you go south like this, then you're getting this downwind run all the time. Look, it's just downwind the whole time. But what it means is you're moving away from those storms, getting a bit further south, which sometimes, and in the season actually turns out to be really, it goes for a quiet crossing. This is why people have all these, these fancy downwind sails and Jenicas and furlers and all sorts of stuff, so that they can go, have a decent speed in a light wind environment. Whereas we got to fly the Oxley in its max wind speed range most of the time, and I had to drop it because we just started feeling like we're going to die, rolling the boat over anyway. So I was really glad to be able to stay in that pressure, that wind band, and have 25 knots all the time, which was just fantastic. It meant we had big seas. We had 4 to 6 meters, kind of all the time. The first 2 days not so much. So yeah, as Mahina says, I think the way you arrange shifts is very dynamic and responsive compared to others I've heard. I don't even say with you. Yeah, look, and I mean the reality is like if I had a crew of, if there was 5 of us going across, or even just the 4 of us, there was 3 sailors, like everyone knew what they're doing, skippers or whatever it is. Say there was 5 of us going across, and I was in charge of that. I wouldn't actually have a shift, okay? Especially not if it was a heavy weather crossing. And that's how I'd do it in overnights and everything. Like I wouldn't have a shift because I'm on no shift and I'm on every shift. Because I need to be, like, the reality is the standing orders are this. And I remember someone commented on one of the things, because I said in the update today, they've been waiting for me to get up so we can jibe and we can do this, right? And someone commented like, oh, are they so useless that they have to wait for you to come and adjust some sheets or something like that? And I was like, that's a very shallow, what's the word, Anna, I'm looking for? Very limited way of thinking. Very limited way of thinking. There's a reason for that. Now, what that reason actually plays into is the fact that they are a very good crew in the sense that I had standing orders that said, if this happens, you wake me up. And if this happens, we do this. And if this happens, we do this. And if we're going to do a jibe, we're all up. And if we're going to do this, we're all up. And that's it. So that's why we hadn't done it until then. That's why. And they had their standing orders. They wanted to let me sleep because we were only going, we were only doing 6.5 knots instead of 9 knots. That's okay. They adjusted the course, as the standing order said, to make sure we had the most amount of wind in the sails, and we were good. And then, bang, 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 I wake up, and now we go, cool, we're ready to do this. Let's do this. We do it as it does. Now, if I'm sleeping or I'm on shift, and I'm off shift, and I hear some commotion or I wake up, because if the boat changes direction, I'm going to wake up. If the wind changes direction, I'm going to wake up. If the sail starts sloping, that's just the reality. I don't sleep that deep on the boat. And you get into a motion and you start to train yourself with that motion. And once the motion changes, it's like, hey, look, something's changed. So if I wake up and someone's all of a sudden going 90 degrees on a different course and hasn't told me, or is just jibed, or is, whatever, then, and I say, hey, that was in the standing orders. Why didn't you wake me up or tell me? They go, oh, I didn't think I needed to, well, whatever. Then they didn't think they needed to that time. So what about the next time? Or what about the time? How many times have I done something that has not been on the standing orders? How many ships have gone past they didn't tell me about? And then I can't trust them. And then I can't sleep, okay? Because I'm putting my life in their hands every time I go to sleep. If they're not paying attention and we hit whatever, or if ship comes over the horizon, whatever, I'm effectively, I'm putting my life in their hands every time I go to sleep. So if they don't wake me up with everything on the standing orders, then I do not trust them, and now I'm not going to sleep well, and I change the entire way I flow that trip. I treat it like I'm solo. So yeah, that's so I just, very short-sighted, as Mahin has said, to call it like that. But no, I think the two of them, they did fantastically, and I was really happy to sail with them, so that was cool. Jacob says, so Kiko, Nico, Graham, Jacob, and you. Why didn't David get to go on that one? Huh? I'm going to get you in trouble, Jacob. Panos is here. Hi, Nick and everyone. Any top tips around managing seasickness? Yes. Don't do an Atlantic crossing. Yes. Top tips. Okay. So, obviously, I get seasick. And I got seasick on this trip. It just presented itself very differently than normal because I was drugged. And I certainly, the Dramamine, I was just taking Dramamine, but the Dramamine wouldn't have done its job if I hadn't have done all these other measures. So, for me, I completely stopped the day I decided to do the Atlantic crossing. I completely stopped drinking coffee. I completely stopped drinking alcohol. I might have had one. No, I completely. I had one drink because I was on a. Oh, during the trip. No, but I had a gin in the airport on the way over. No, that was to Barcelona. No. So as soon as I decided that, 2 days before I flew out, I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped drinking alcohol. I drank heaps of water, and I drank heaps of water on that boat. So those two things, anything that's going to dehydrate you like that, or anything, the coffee for me is a trigger. So I stopped doing all that, and then, okay, now we're into this. You then start managing your meals. So your meals need to be considered, not dairy heavy for me, all these bits and pieces. And you need to have snacks, okay? So snacks, dry crackers, salty snacks, things like that to keep your mind and your body engaged, but also to soak up the stomach, and your starchy foods to soak up your stomach, soak up the acids in your stomach. And then there's managing what you do on the boat and when you do it. Okay, and this is down to so many things, down to when you go to the toilet, down to when you shower, like all of this stuff, and going, right, I need to do these things when I'm not really tired. Okay, if I'm really tired, then I'm going to get seasick more. So you manage your sleep. Okay, so it's like, oh, this is a really nice time to just be sitting out and watching a movie, but actually I'm tired and they're on watch. I'm going to try and get some more sleep. So there's a lot of that stuff. Now, I took 1 Dramamine every day for 12 days at the same time, and I was doing really, really well. About day 10, I could always feel the seasickness kind of lived, in my head versus in nauseous because of the Dramamine doing its job, but it wasn't gone. Okay, so there's times it's just like I just feel off, and I knew what it was, but it was just presenting in a different way, and then the jobs, like there was jobs that because I didn't have to do them, I didn't do them. I did dishes. Oh no, I did dishes quite a bit because we were up high on the deck saloon, and I couldn't handle them crashing around, so I did them anyway. Made me feel a bit seasick. I didn't do much cooking, if any. No, actually, I didn't do any cooking. No, I did. I cooked myself some breakfast. Man, I did a lot. But in generally, I kept those jobs. When we were sucking all that water out of the bilge, I did 20% of it. If that, I did 20%. I instead was on watch when they were doing the bilges, okay? And I would manage all that. And then when the thing needed emptying, I could take that out and empty it because I would choose not to do those jobs because I needed to keep myself in that zone. That is the big part of it. Dehydration, don't let that happen. Tiredness, get good sleep. And in managing what you're doing and when you're doing it, you've got to keep your foods up. That's about as much as I can give you on that one, I think. Jacob says he can't trust David. He would. Meclizine hydrochloride tablets work really well for me. Thank you, Graham. That's cool. Fine. We're going to need a bigger boat. Always going to need a bigger boat. Always. So yeah, that was the seasickness. Okay, heading back to the rundown a little bit. When we left, we did that southern thing. Now, when we took off in the middle of the night, midnight or something like that. Just before midnight, which was great. And we just started heading south. Now we had great wind. Sails out, full main, jib, and we were doing 7.8 knots, close reach, because we were by the island, so everything was kind of messed up. We had about 48 minutes of that, and then it all died. It came from a different direction, then it completely died. So I needed to make time. We motored for 200 miles, 180, just over 24 hours. Just over 24 hours we motored. And that was because the wind was very light. It was due to pick up, and it wasn't due to pick up until we got down into the band of wind. So if you look at something like this, see this band here. Let's see if I can replicate that. Kind of like that. You see how you've got that soft patch in closer to the land in here? We kind of had that, but softer, and then it was going to fill in more like that. There we go. So we had this soft patch coming down here. So we took about 150, 200 miles of motoring to get down to a band of wind to get into that. And then once we hit that, we sailed basically the whole way. We only ever motored to reef or to charge or whatever it is. So yeah. So we did that, but I just chose. I was like, look, we need to get moving, and I'll burn the diesel. We had 900 liters of diesel, which is just in the standard tanks that the boat has, which was great because that meant we had a lot of diesel, and the boat's very efficient. So we had a range of about 1,800 miles on that fuel if you're just cruising 1,300 RPM, 5.5, 6 knots. Do 1,800 miles on that fuel, given no other major influences. So that was good, and that was why we did that. But once we got down into this, after that really quiet day and all the dolphins, we got the wind and we just started running with the Oxley and with on a broad reach with the big Genoa. So it was really great. It was funny because I didn't want to leave Tenerife without that jib working 100% because we were expecting a very windy crossing. I was expecting to be like that's the sail I needed. I needed that jib, and I used it. In the end, we actually used it a lot, poling both of them out, but we didn't use it for a week. We're running on the Genoa. So yeah, so that was really cool. But basically, the rest was sailing. Can't trust David. Yeah, we know. Who says he wants to go with you? That's already starting to great with the two of you. Oh my God. Lovely says, how was the engine noise installation on the Moody? It's pretty good. I mean, Motors mounted quite centrally. That engine room is great. There's still engine noise though. It's not like it's a quiet thing, but I can hear my daughter coming down the stairs. The forward cabin's definitely away from the engine noise quite a lot. I'd probably say, it was pretty good. I love that engine room. It's just amazing. Yeah, that's a good range. That's a very good range. I agree. Again, it's how you manage. Okay, how much you drawing. If you do 1800 RPM everywhere, you're going to burn fuel. That's just how it goes. So, going back, I'm going to go back because we had a question right in the beginning that I haven't really covered. Carol said, if it's Hrusha, then it's Karel. Karel Hrusha. Greetings to everyone. Sorry for being polite. Not impolite at all. Just cannot stay. Could you tell us what was it? The freshwater supplies, drinking water, and food. How was it with the freshwater? Okay, so how was it with freshwater, drinking supplies, and food? Look, I had a very spoiled crossing. We carried about 500, 600 litres of fresh water in the tanks, and we had a water maker on board, quite a high capacity water maker, which was great. And hey, baby girl, what are you doing? You're dancing. You're dancing. Oh, you fell down. So, and a high capacity water maker, which was really, really good. So the guys were showering every day or every second day. Like we were very, very comfortable. And we also, the way you manage, hey, Rokura, can you stop squeaking that? Go outside and squeak the ball. Go on. I'm going to tickle you. Oh. Anyway. Okay. Animals and children and people. Water. That's right. So, of course, you've got your freshwater tanks, but they could become contaminated. You could blow a leak, all this sort of stuff. So you also carry. I think they've got like the Ark and all this sort of stuff has this metric. Who's looked at the Ark recently? Tell me what the metric is. But it's roughly like 1.5 liters per day per person of extra water. This is basically just drinking water. So we had bottled water of 100 liters or whatever it was, and bottled water as stuff that's not going to get contaminated. That's to basically not for 15 days, but for 21 days. Okay, so 21 to 30 days of water outside of our water maker, outside of our tanks and everything like that. So you do that and you bottle it and you get that, you put it in your bilges and you store it everywhere like that. So that was really good. But once we started pumping through the water maker, we got through the tanks and we just kept on making water. We ran the water maker 4 or 5 times. But we were being very luxurious with our showers and, I think we ran and up until and the first few days when the swell was down at like 2 meters or something like that, they even ran the dishwasher. There was a dishwasher on the boat. We run the dishwasher. Ridiculous. And I was like, guys, it's not going to work properly. It's because we're rocking around too much. Dishwashers aren't made to be used at sea like that. They're made to be used in the marina or, in the flat in the anchorage. But so that's that with the fresh water. That's how we managed that. Now they didn't drink a lot of water. They didn't drink a lot of water. They drank beer. So I drank a lot of water, and with our seasickness and everything, and I would just always, and with the seasickness as well, I'd always keep bottled water in the fridge so that I could refill my water bottle. So I got cold water because that was good for calming the seasickness or anything like that. So we had that. Food, so freshwater supplies, drinking water, and food. Supplies, drinking water. Okay, so we're talking about drinking water. Supplies can come last. Food. Again, very luxurious crossing. Freezers, 2 fridges and a deep freeze. Like they were making ice each day for their sundowners in the fridge, in the freezer, in the back locker. So we had a lot. They pre-made a lot of like lasagnas and stew meat and all this stuff, then froze those, then put them in, which was absolutely great. And as Mahin has just tokened up, we had an air fryer. An air fryer on board, and it was fantastic. I was not expecting how fantastic it was. The air fryer on the boat was amazing. Now, you have a look at the updates, but I think I had it drawing about 120 amp. No, that was with the autopilot. Call it 90 to 120 amps. On the air fryer was drawing that, but I mean, because it's so efficient, we're not heating the oven up, we're not doing all that. It was so efficient, and I love the idea of getting gas, cooking gas like LPG, propane, whatever, off the boats, because they're the biggest cause of death. As Crazy Frog says, David says, air fryers are awesome boats. So yeah, that was really cool. Though, you need a way to strap it down, okay? Talking to my crew, you have to strap that thing down. Oh man, they stressed me out. We kind of like, if we're cooking, we're kind of in the kitchen. That was just sitting up on the bench and up on the deck saloon. It's so high. The movement was crazy. And we were in 4.5 meters. So for some reason, they would decide, and I wasn't cooking. I was grateful to be cooked for. So I didn't mind if they cooked later on, that was fine. But oh my gosh, they would cook basically on sunset. Now what happens on sunset? It gets windier. It gets windier on sunset. So then we would have our heaviest time of the night while they're cooking and while we're eating, which did not play into my seasickness as well. But I wasn't going to complain too much when I'm getting cooked for. So that was hilarious, but it needed to be strapped down. It fell off the bench at one stage because they finished cooking and it was sat up there. And we were in the saloon that we were eating, and then we got this huge pitch and roll, and it fell off and it hit the ground and it smashed. And it smashed the like little cupboard that you put the cable in. So everything was fine. It was still working. That was early on. It was like day 5. So I was very, very happy that it was still working. And then after that, I wouldn't leave it. Yeah, flying air fryers are not so great, are they? After then, I wouldn't leave it alone. So if they were cooking, I just made sure I was on watch, sort of close by, because I couldn't find a really good method to strap it down. But I came up with a great idea. You know those suction cups they use to lift out windows? I was like, right, those would be fantastic on the boat, because the benches and stuff, you don't want to drill holes and stuff. You don't want stuff permanently, especially not doing crossings all the time. If you have some of those pump up suction things, just put them either side of anything on the bench and then strap over top of it. So that's on my idea. Mahina, that's my idea for Meal Fleece. The thing about Meal Fleece is we don't have the bench space. Anyway, so with the supply, with the food, we had a lot of that. Then we had grains. Okay, we had rice for weeks. We had pasta for weeks. We had canned tuna. We had beans. We had all these things that are not going to perish. All right, we had all of that. Then they had all the fresh stuff on top of that. My guys provisioned. They did not get enough fresh fruit, in my view. I was kind of the only one eating it, but like day 6, we were out of fresh fruit. And we could have had more oranges. We could have had more apples. And the best thing that I've always seen is you get fruit hammocks. We hang them outside so you're not attracting any bugs and they're not sweating and all that sort of stuff. So more fresh fruit was on my, I was too busy fixing the forestay and doing all the furlay and everything to go and reprovision, and we're fine. I needed more snacks personally. I needed more sort of chippies and salty snacks for my seasickness, but I actually lost sort of 8 or 9 kilos on the crossing because I was seasick all the time, and there wasn't just crap food for me to eat all the time. A lot of nuts and things like that, which was great. So yeah, there was a lot of good food on board, and we arrived with plenty of food. So yeah, because we were so fast. But yeah, effectively that's kind of how it goes. You just always setting up for the contingency. You suction it to the saloon table. That's true. Yeah, canned fruit as a backup is so important. Yeah, canned fruit was, and I was like, shoot, I should have just gone out and bought a dozen tins of canned peaches and a dozen tins of canned pears, and that would have been really, really good for me, but I missed out on that. Supplies. So go the other side of that. We're talking about food and water. Supplies was medical equipment. What else supplies? WD-40, grease, bits and pieces for the boat. So you come down to all these spares that you want to have on board. Now, at one point, we thought the water pump had shot itself for the first inline water pump for the water maker. Now, you can have parts and bits and pieces for that, but knowing what I know now about that boat, I would have a replacement first pump for the water maker. The second pump's bigger and high pressure, not as easy, but also easier to fix if you've got parts for it. I would just have a full replacement for the first inline pump. I would have a replacement water pump, freshwater pump for the boat, just a whole unit. We did not have a redundancy on autopilot, okay? Redundancy autopilot was me. We did not have a wind vane tiller that ran without power. We used power. We just consumed power for the whole crossing. That was fine. The autopilot was on. It was drawing 38 amps. And we just managed that by using the generator to charge batteries or using the engine to charge batteries. That was just part of it. Yeah, so supplies-wise, there was a few things that they were missing that I did my best to find, but couldn't find at late notice in Gran Canaria, or at the time we had, which was things like shackles. Okay, spare, solid, big D shackles that were matching what we needed for the boat. We were able to buy some in Tenerife, but not as good as the originals. So spare shackles for when stuff breaks or whatever like that. Grease. We didn't have winch grease. We did not have there's this white coverall grease that we use for stuff that's very, very weatherproof. And I can't remember the name of it right now. It's in a tube and it's, like bits and pieces like that. And because this is the first time that he has owned a boat and he's done as much as he can, really, and he spent a lot of money, spent a lot of time preparing the boat for all this. That stuff just wasn't there because he hasn't had the problems and then fixed them and then had the stuff left over. So there was a lot of bits and pieces like that. We had WD-40, but we only had one can. So I would have had 3. Spares, otherwise, we had a lot of other spares, Dyneema shackles, bits and pieces. That was really important. So those sorts of supplies, that's what we're going on there. They definitely had enough alcohol. I was actually concerned that we might not be allowed into the country because of the, but like they were like, hey, okay, you're actually smuggling. There is that much alcohol on board. Like a couple of the underfloor things were just 100% full of beer. And then there was just all of the spirits and all, it was just like, and he overbought on tonic. So there was just tonic, all these little bottles of tonic, which at one stage, their ottomans that they have in the Moody, they had like little cushion things. They filled those up because they're storage, but they weren't locked down, and there wasn't a way to lock them down that they sorted out. So every now and then, like in the night, I'm just hearing these ottomans just go, boom, boom, from side to side. It drove me mental. I'd get up and I'd say, "Oh, let's whatever," but because they were moving their tonic bottles in there, they cracked open or the lids cracked, whatever, shook, and then it cracked open. So, there's just lessons learned, all that, all the way up there. Weight loss has nothing to do with gin. Nothing to do with gin. Maybe a little to do with gin. I haven't been drinking a lot of gin. Like we just seem to sit in this office and work a lot. I think it had a lot to do with not sitting on this chair and not moving. Anyway, Sasha's here. Oh shit, I'm so late. Oh man, you're right. You're right. That's what replay's all about. Have to review it 100%. Yeah, so look, we're coming up to an hour now and my face is kind of clogged up still and all that. But if you have any other questions right now, throw them down. I'm sure there'll be more talk around this and maybe we'll do a bit of an interview situation with some other people and all that. But why? There's plenty of Carib in the Caribbean. Yeah, but babe, we like Carib because Carib's a really basic, average crap beer, which is light and it's kind of like Corona or whatever. And we like it because we're not beer people. And there is plenty. Interesting about the spares. Obviously a balance between a redundancy and capacity and what specifically did I miss? Shackles. I did miss shackles because we actually blew one to pieces, bent it out, and just replacing that shackle became a bit of a problem. I had to source it from somewhere else, then change. And the greases I talked about, those were the things. In this case, we didn't have any spare sails. Okay, we have we had a lot of sails because we had the mainsail. We had a little bit of sail tape, but I didn't have a proper fixing like palm and needle and thread and all that sort of stuff. Not that I wouldn't have chosen to bring down that main if I had to. If we had any problems, I wouldn't have chosen to bring down the main because it's vertically battened, and that's quite a pain in the bum underway, and we were always rocking around. But like those bits and pieces, mainly those greases, because we had one winch get really noisy, and I wanted to service it, but I didn't have the right grease for the pulls and stuff. So yeah, it was that sail tape, sticky back, insulation tape. They didn't have enough insulation tape on board, basically because we had to do the mousing of the halyards. We had to do things that we didn't expect to have to do. We had plenty of Seawater on board. We had a brand new tube, so that was fine. Yeah, I should have taken my own PFD. I didn't, because I didn't want to travel heavy, and I knew he had them on there and stuff like that. But then realizing when I arrived that it was just like I have a big grunty awesome PFD because I'm a big grunty awesome dude. But it's like I have a confidence in that because I've had it serviced or I packed it or anything like that. I should have just taken my own one. I don't know why I didn't in the end. I certainly could have. So it's just flying with the capsules and all this sort of stuff is a pain in the bum. So I should have taken that because then I have spares for my own and everything like that. Yeah. Gun fixes man flu. I know you meant gin. That's awesome. Still waiting for a limited 45D cap. Yes, and there she is. She's claiming it. Good on her. That's my bad. I'll send them out next week. Yep, she's got all the packets and everything, all the slips and all that. She's just got to get them packaged and send them out. So that's happening next week. Sorry about the delay on that. We've had some stuff going on with all this crap. Anyway, so have you had an issue with traveling through airports with your PFD? Yes. Okay. I haven't actually had an issue. I just know that I need to travel in a certain way, and that annoys me, and explain things. But if you're at the check-in desk, you've got these cylinders, the best thing to do is go, right, take a photo of your PFD and the cylinder as it goes in the PFD, all right, in the rating. And then close that all up, put your PFD away in the hold in your bag, and then you carry on the cylinder. Okay, carry the cylinder on your hand luggage, and then say, hey, I've got this thing, blah, blah, blah. They're going to look at the rating of it. And one of the reasons I didn't fly with mine is because the idea that I might have to give up that, mine's a bigger capacity, but the 28 grams are fine. But the bigger ones, I think mine's a 38 gram or whatever. Sometimes they kick up a fuss with that. Just like sometimes they kick up a fuss with big, real charge packs because they used to run small ones. They always pick this up in security and go read stuff, and then eventually I get it back. But yeah, I heard there's a rule that allows it, but most airport securities don't know it. Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole thing. You can travel with it. It's all made to be done, but you need to put the canisters in your carry-on because they're going to go into a pressurized zone in the cabin as opposed to in the hold, and just because of all that sort of stuff. But definitely for travelers, this has helped me mainly just to help people is having one of these for my drone batteries. I put the drone batteries in here and then carry on with them. That seems to take people's back down a little bit, which is good. Yeah, so that's the way that one goes. All right, I think that's all my voice and my face has got tolerance for tonight. So throw any last questions down. I'm going to finish this drink. And then we will get out of here. Move on to the next thing. Quite excited. So big shout out to my wife, who is currently east of me. Big shout out to my wife because while I was away, we had our something year anniversary, whatever it was. I actually know, but I'm wondering if she does. No, we had our 11-year wedding anniversary, and I could not be there for it with this sail, so we didn't get to do that. So we didn't get to go away. I also, there's another reason. No, I'm not going to go to that. I'll get upset about it. Anyway, So happy anniversary to my wife for that day. That was fun on the phone and all that sort of stuff, but we didn't get to see each other. But I did get to buy us our anniversary present, which we both got an Apple Watch. And so I've got the new Apple Watch Ultra, which there's all your comments in the background, which I'm really enjoying. And I'm going to really test it out this season by probably destroying it. But the dive function and all of that other stuff and everything. So I find this really helpful. Just my standard Apple Watch, which I lost in V's, find that really helpful on in the season. So I don't have to have my phone nearby to be able to go, oh shoot, I'm missing a call or I'm getting a message or whatever like that. Ultra 2, yes, Ultra latest, whatever it is, Jacob. And I know the Garmin's are way better for outdoors and battery power and all that sort of stuff, but I love Apple and it's going to work in with all my stuff. So yeah, that's the new Apple Watch Ultra 2 or whatever it is. So I'm trying that out. Mahina got one of the new series. Awesome. Does a new watch float? No, but neither do I, so it's okay. But I can dive with it, and it's got a dive computer and everything on it, so I can proper dive with it. So I'm really excited about that. I will report on it. Better not drop it in Coot. Yeah. I've also got a different band. I've got the Ocean Band, so hopefully that keeps it on my wrist. Yeah. Skipped right over that. Shut up. I did not, but I will. Congratulations, leavers. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, better not drop it in Coot. Yeah, you go. So that's cool. So that was that. I think that's all I got. But no, and an absolute huge shout out to the whole team here, which is Anna and Michael and Mahina and Stephen. What? And Chelsea. I have to introduce Chelsea. The 45D team, because there is no way I could have put, like, I wasn't supposed to pull that crossing off anyway. Okay, there was just no time. Like, we just didn't have the time as it was. Someone asked if I was going to do any solo sailing this season. Now that I've got Mila Felice in the winter. We didn't have time for that. There was just inquiries and everything flowing through. So Anna really just basically, I don't think she slept while I was away, and she just kept going on inquiries and sales and everything like that. I managed to do 15, 20 calls. 15 or 20 calls I did from the middle of the Atlantic. Thank you, Starlink. That was incredible. So I was able to work through the whole thing, which is good and really hard with seasickness. But anyway, you've got to do what you got to do. So huge shout out to the team. Thank you so much, because otherwise it wouldn't have been possible. And all of that to keep everything going while I was away, just swanning around doing life in airports and, drinking gin and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to go. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry, I'm not going to repeat everything I just said, Sasha. I saw that comment something before. Where is it? Oh, it's gone. Oh, no, there it is. Can you please repeat everything you said in the last hour? Oh, I missed that one too from David. What did David say? Well done, mate. Challenge a number of way, but a big one. Yep. It was a big one. So, well, really? And my daughter's getting very big. Hey, come here for a second. Rah! How big are you? You're that big. You're huge. Go, get lost. Yeah. So good to be home. All right. Yeah. Huge shout out to Pablo for having Starlink. Yeah. Oh, there's a good question. Jacob's always about the internet. How much did the Starlink cost over the entire trip? £3,000. About £3,000. Now, so he was on, he'll be different now, he's over there, the complete international, like, go anywhere thing. And he pays 200 pounds a month for that plan. And that includes 50 gigabytes of outside data. So, like, if you're within 12 miles of the coast or whatever, you're in that coastal, it's just all unlimited. That includes 50 gigs of outside. Now, it could have just cost that 200, because 50 gigs for crossing the Atlantic, like, if you're getting weather updates, doing Skype calls, it would have been fine over 15, 20 days. we consumed so much data, all of us on video calls, upload, download movies, Netflix, whatever. We consumed it. So we probably did. So basically, I think that plan, you then get charged £2 per gigabyte. I think it's £2 per gigabyte after you go over your 50. And we did a lot of gigabytes. So that's why. That's why. So I know that he'd already spent £1,200 at one stage in the trip. So I would estimate about £2,000, £2,500 would have been the cost of Starlink for that trip with us just rinsing it. Yeah. Anyway. All right. There goes off. Bye. Looking forward to Flotilla in 3 weeks. Holy crap, 3 weeks. Oh my gosh. All right. Oh, hey, leave Alfie alone, you little terror. Oh, it is Bella Boo's bed, isn't it? Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah, that is insane. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining. I'm going to head off. See you in the next live stream. We'll be back on Tuesday night. I'm going to be back on Tuesday night for something. We're going to be back on Tuesday night for. It's probably itinerary planning or it's part of our email series. I'll put that stream up soon so that we've got that. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll see you later. All right. Bye. How do I do this? I press that button and then I press that button and I'm gone.